Hello and welcome to this segment of continuing to model the monster truck. My audio got screwed up on this, so I'm just going to voice over it. So bear with me if you can. Just try to annotate what I'm talking about here if I can. We're looking at the defects that are around the lights and around the front. You can see those indentions around the front. So we're going to go into edit mode and look and see if we can find out why this has a problem here. I go into vertex mode and check that vertex, and you can see there's actually two vertices there. So we're going to need to select both of those vertices using the B select and do an Alt M to merge them together. And as you can see, that took care of that little defect. There's actually one down towards the bottom as well that I didn't catch at that time, but there's another one there a little bit further down that same line. Okay, we're looking at the defects around the lights. You can see it's not entirely square. And if you do a edge loop here, the Control R, and then you pull it over close to the edge of the light housing, then that'll take care of some of that extra distortion there. So sometimes when you, even though you're using the edge crease, you have to do a edge loop just to get that a little bit more defined if you need to. Sometimes edge crease is enough. So I just did an edge loop across the top there and brought it down just to get rid of some of that some of the geometry errors that you were seeing around the top of the headlights. So you can see it looks much better, but there's still some distortion there, and you can go ahead and complete that by doing some edge loops. And later on you can kind of see some creasing there that exists, and we'll fix that a little bit later on. Just talking about the difference between the orthographic and perspective views here. If you use 5 on your key on your number pad, then you can toggle between those different views. Going into face mode, and now we're going to look at creating the back window. Did an E extrude and then scaled it down a little bit, and going to do an E extrude again and just push it in a little. Probably pushed in a little bit too much there. While that's selected, you can go ahead and do your Shift E for your edge, and you can see how that defines that quite nicely. You can see the top, the roof, and the bottom of that window is very thin, so you can grab one of those lines, or the line at the top and the line at the bottom, sorry, the edges, and drag them down a little bit to get a little bit of more body to the truck in that area. In fact, what I'm trying to do there is just size it down a little bit to get more body, but it worked much better if you take the edges and just manually size them down. So kind of a nice looking back window. Go back into edit mode and select your window again. Select the window faces. Obviously I'm not going to listen to myself here and not select the window faces right now. Okay, now let's select the window faces. And let's go into the material and just choose the glass material and assign it. And there you have the glass material assigned to the rear window. And I'm just attempting to try to fix some of that definition at the bottom. You can see it's kind of wavery, but really I think what we need to do is put an edge loop along there to help it to stand out a little bit better. So now on the front windshield, we're going to select, actually we're going to move some of these edges. So go into vertex mode and just choose those two edges there. And you can do a SX on your keyboard, scale them out a little bit so they line up with what would be the side of the windows, the corners. And then select your faces that will be the windshield. And you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to, you can go ahead and do the Shift E to, well, I guess I'm not doing it there, but anyway, go ahead and do your E to extrude, scale it down with the S, and then E again to extrude. If you want to, I mean, you don't have to extrude the second time. Actually, I have decided here to go ahead and select the edges and move them down first so that I have a little bit more body to the truck there visible instead of a window that's taken up that entire space. Just many different ways to do your model. So then go ahead and select your window, E to extrude, and then you don't even really need to size it because we kind of sized it anyway. And then I did a Shift E to get the edges. And you can see that's a nice, very nicely defined window. It doesn't quite look like a truck window yet, or at least doesn't look like the front to me. So I'm going to grab some of these vertices on the edge and just move them around a little bit. Do an SX, scale them out. And notice I got that one vertex on the bottom right next to the other one that I probably shouldn't have selected, but that's okay. So I'm just grabbing those vertices there and just scaling them out. Try to get those corners to look a little bit more truck-like, but I think actually you need to take the top also and scale them back a little bit. So then you have your window there. Just select your windshield. And I'm going to go and turn on occlude so I don't select the geometry in the back. And I'm selecting the windshield. And just going up to material and assigning the glass look to it. So now that we did that, we have all the windows done. Do a little bit of a render there, and you can see that you're now seeing the transparency fairly clear. And of course that can be adjusted. Looks like it could use some specularity there or something, but the top edge of that window there is very thin, so one thing you can do is just take the edge there and just drag it down a little bit. Go ahead and do that on your own because I've already done that on my latest version. And of course, as you're modeling, just any creative idea you come up with while you're doing this, of course, just make it your own. And hopefully, even though I'm having a difficult time doing my tutorials, talking while I'm modeling, some of the tools that you're seeing me use and everything, if you're not that familiar with Blender or you're kind of new to it, it's going to help you out on how to use some of these tools. Now I'm going to take the object which started as a plane and I'm going to rename it truck body. And the reason that I do this, if you go into Outliner, you can see that right now we have the truck body. I still have a cube. That's the default cube that is in Blender. And I'm just going to delete it. And so now really all I have is the truck body, but when you get into modeling complex parts and you break them apart and you have different objects, you definitely want all that stuff named because it makes it so much easier to find it. So now we have our basic body of the truck done. It's going to do a save as another version here just to make sure I get it saved after some major changes. So what should we do next? I think we're going to start on the front bumper. So we're going to add mesh cube. So I really didn't need to delete that other cube. I could have used it. And just bring it up to the front there, make sure it's lined up. And you want to do a S to scale. And I'm just going to do a new material here, or actually pick a material and I'm going to make it black. And I'm going to Shift D to duplicate and move that duplication over to the other side. And as you do this, I recommend that you name each piece that you're doing unless it's going to be integrated into a larger piece. Just created a cylinder. I'm going to scale it up, and then I'm going to say no, I'm going to delete that cylinder. And I'm going to create the cylinder again, add cylinder. And down on the left hand side you can see a menu. And it shows you how many vertices are being used. And if you want to knock down the number of the vertices, this is where you want to do it. And you can take off the cap ends of the cylinder if you need to. I'm just going to change this to 16. And you want to do it before you touch that cylinder, because once you move the cylinder, that menu goes away. Now, if you move your cylinder, or if you create a cylinder and you don't see that menu at all, Then you can go up to File, and choose Load Factory Settings. And hopefully that will reset that window for you. The reason I know that is because it happened to me. So we're going to scale up the cylinder, and we're going to rotate around the y-axis, depending on what view I'm going to do this in. Okay, I'm going to rotate around the y-axis here 90 degrees. So RY90, enter. And also, if you want to free rotate, you can use your choose your R key and hold down the control key, and that will rotate in segments. So I just scaled the bumper up a little bit. I don't want it as huge as what I made it in the drawing, so I'm just going to leave it at that size for now. You can notice that you see those the vertices, the edges from the vertices, the 16 vertices around there. And it would look, you know, kind of stand out, but you can hit smooth and that takes care of it. So you really don't need that many edges. Just remember, the more polygons you create, the more faces, the more difficult it is to work with your model as it gets more complex. The more memory it eats up, the harder it is to animate and everything. So now we see the bumper on there, made it all black. And so now that that's done, we're going to move to the back and we're going to do the rear bumper. So we're just going to add mesh cube, scale it up. We're going to scale along the x-axis. I'm going to tab into edit mode, and we're already in the face mode, so we're going to go and actually we're going to Control R, do some loop cuts, scale along the scale along the x-axis, sorry, scale those out to the end, and then we're going to go back into face mode, select those two faces there, and extrude along the y-axis. And there's the basic bumper. So now, if you like, you can go ahead and assign that a material. I think I'm going to make it black as well. And there's the bumpers. So still fairly simple looking as far as the truck, but as we're moving along, we're getting more and more detail to it. So I'm just renaming my items here. This is the rear bumper, and I'm naming this the front bumper. Just recommend you get in the habit of doing that because it makes it so much easier. And if you share your models with somebody else, or if you sell them, you definitely want to do that. You don't want anybody looking at your models and seeing, oh, here's a cylinder, here's a box or a cube. They don't like to see that at all. It's really kind of speaks to being an amateur if you don't name your items. That door kind of bothers me. It needs a little bit of something there. Probably when we put the hood indentions and put the tailgate in, the detail in, it'll probably look a lot better. But so just did a quick save, and now we're going to look at the wheels. So I'm going to do an add mesh cylinder. And I'm going to have to do it again because I forgot to change the number of vertices. So I keep forgetting to do that. I really wish they wouldn't get rid of that menu when you move an object. It's very frustrating. So I'm just going to change this again to 16. Okay, scale it up. We want to rotate it around the y-axis by 90 degrees. Scale it up. Scale along the x-axis after you scale it to where you want it. And just move the whole wheel forward a little bit. And I decided to make them a little bit smaller than what my drawing had. Okay, so now that you got the basic outline of the wheel, you can see I have some edges over there. Well, actually, I'm going to do some loop cuts. Just doing Control R and then use the mouse wheel to do 5 loop cuts there. Okay, so then we want to go in and select the outer edges. So you want to hold down your Alt key and select the edge, and then use your Shift Alt to select the other edge. And when I did that, this view just looked really, as far as visual, it looked really weird to me, so it kind of messed me up for a second. Had to go back into front view just to see where I was at. Not sure if you're seeing that, but it's getting some really weird views. Okay, so you have both edges selected. Just do E to extrude it, and do S to scale, SX to scale along the X-axis. Just going to scale it out to where the size of the tire is, and then you can just do an S and move your mouse to scale it down. So something like that. Okay, going back into solid mode so you can kind of see what it looks like. We have a basic outline of a tire. And I suggest don't make it black yet. Don't get ambitious and do that, because you won't be able to see any of the geometry if it's black. Go into face mode, and you just want to select all those faces that are in the middle. So you could do an A select all, then deselect the edges, or probably what would have been easier here is just do a box select around all the inside faces, making sure occlude is off there so it doesn't so it deselects all the ones that I want. Again, using the middle mouse button to deselect with the C tool. Okay, once you have them selected, we're going to extrude them, but we're going to do it in a different way. So what you want to do is go down there and choose individual individual origins, and then go up, and you want to choose not the regular extrude region, which is the E key, but you want to extrude individual. As soon as you choose extrude individual, you'll see that it just goes kind of wild, but just deselect right away, and then it'll keep its original geometry. So now with that extrusion like that, just go down there and you want to do just a S to scale. And you notice that it's scaling all of those extrusions individually, just how we want it to. So now that you have that, we are going to do a regular extrusion. If I can remember what I did here. Doing a lot of talking, evidently. Okay, we need to go back down here and choose median point, which is usually the default. And we're going to extrude individual again and just scale outward. And the median point is what allows us to scale outward here. So now go back down, choose individual origins, and just do a scale inward. And you can see we're kind of making like a knobby tires. So when I looked at it, it's like, okay, these things are just sticking out way too far, sort of like spikes or something. So to fix that, you can just do a scale back down. I just deselected them and did some renders, but you can do Control Z to make sure they're selected again. So go back down and choose in medium point. And yeah, just scale that in. Looks a little bit better. Still pretty rough tire, rough ride, but that's okay. That's the kind of monster truck it is. So now just placing the camera so I can take a shot of the tire just to see what it looks like. and it looks huge, and I think it's more like the perspective of the camera, but I'm going to widen the tire just a little bit. Just to make it look a little bit better as far as in relationship to the truck itself. And you'll notice as we're getting on to further into the tutorial that I won't be using the exact terminology of what I'm doing every time, like you know, SX or whatever. I'll just say scale your tire, maybe along the X-axis or whatever. Because number one, you're someone that probably already knows the basics of Blender and how to do that. Or number two, you've gone through the tutorial. You might be a beginner, but you've picked up on how that works now. So no need for me to explain every little bit, although I've already done 2 or 3 more videos after this one, so you'll probably hear me explaining each piece for a while. So now we're just taking the edges again of the tire. We're going to do an E extrude. Make sure we are on median point. And you're just going to extrude them down. And it worked out quite nicely that they are extruding towards the center of the tire. So right there you kind of figure, okay, that's where the rim's going to go, or close to it, wherever you want it to be along there. I guess I stopped right there. And that's the basic, we'll say that's the rubber tire. And you just want to do a E extrude again. And I'm just pulling them in there along the X-axis. And extrude again, and I just sized it instead of pulling it inward further, just sizing them down a little bit. And just scaling along the X-axis, bring it outward. And just so you know, I created a cylinder without cap ends, and those are essentially the cap ends there. They're open. If you need to close a cap end, easy way to do it, go into vertex mode, and you want to select all your vertices of the cap. And then you can just do your normal Control M or Alt M, sorry, to merge them at the center. And that's how you can close in a cap that you had open. So there's the basic tire. And in the next video, we're going to look at creating the rim and the hubs and the hub and lug nuts and all that good stuff. So till then, see you later.